everyone, welcome back to my podcast. My name is Ari and I am the host of this podcast, and in this week's episode I'm going to be reading and reviewing a middle grade book that was very kindly sent to me by the author of the book. So the book I'm going to be talking about is called The Enchanted Life of Valentina Mejía, and this is by Alexandra Alessandri. Also, you guys, be sure to stay tuned to the end of this week's episode because I had the wonderful opportunity to actually interview Alexandra Alessandri. So that was so fun to do. I'm going to go ahead and put it at the end of this episode so you guys can hear all of her information about the book and all that we talked about, so I'm really looking forward to that portion of this episode. But let's go ahead and talk about the synopsis of this book and what you can expect from it. So this book is a middle grade fantasy adventure. It's around 200 pages, more or less, and it follows the main character, Valentina Mejía, or nickname Vale, and her younger brother, and how they go on this adventure to save their father, which is such a wonderful plot, such a wonderful story. So not only does it have a wonderful meaning to it, but it is also such a creative storyline. So basically, it starts off with the three of them, the father and the two kids, going on this kind of mission to find this fantastical, magical creature. Something bad happens to the dad, and then the two siblings have to basically find a way to save their father. While trying to save their father, they somehow get into this fantastical world where they come across magical creatures, some good, some bad, and a lot of other fun and exciting things. So guys, if you want to purchase it, I will have the link in this episode description to purchase The Enchanted Life of Valentina Mejía. But this book was just so wonderful. I really liked the cover as well. The colors were just so beautiful, and I think they did a wonderful job of picking the colors for this. Also, just by looking at the cover, you can see the story already. Like, you already know it's going to be a wonderful fantasy adventure with family and fairy tale, so it's such a wonderful cover. And also, now talking a little bit more about the book, the characters in this book were so fantastic. One thing I love about books is when you can tell that the author really took time into creating this world of theirs. So when reading this book, I really found myself thinking, oh my gosh, Alexandra Alessandri did such a wonderful job at painting the picture for not only the characters, but also all the destinations that they would travel through. I honestly found myself there. Like, I wasn't even in my current world. I jumped into the book and I was right there with them, experiencing everything they were, which is such a powerful thing in reading, and I love that so much about reading. That's why I love reading so much. You can jump into a whole nother world, and the author of this book just did such a wonderful job doing that. You can really tell that each character was really well thought out, and I just loved it so much. So this story, like I said, follows a little girl and her brother and how they have to go on this adventure/quest to save their father. While on their adventure, they run into a lot of fantastical creatures and animals that they have only ever heard about in fairy tales and stories. So basically, every time they see a new creature, they're like, oh, that's whatever, known for this and that, because they already know about that character. So it's kind of like they jumped into a fairy tale, which I personally loved that it's kind of like their dream, or not their dream, but like a dream became a reality. Like, they kind of jumped into a reality. So I really love that. It was so great. So overall, you guys, it was just a wonderful middle grade fantasy adventure book about family, friendship, and of course, fantasy and adventure sprinkled throughout. So I loved everything about this book. I'm definitely going to be rereading it soon, but I loved it so much, and I really recommend that you guys check it out as well. Like I said, I do have a link in this episode description to purchase it, so if you want to go over there and take a look at it, be sure to click the link and it will take you directly to pages where you can purchase this wonderful book. But now, here is the interview that I got to do with the author of The Enchanted Life of Valentina Mejía, Alexandra Alessandri. Hi Alexandra, thank you so very much for doing this interview here with me today. I really appreciate it. Before we begin, I just want to say thank you so much for sending me your book and for allowing me to read and review it here on my podcast. I really loved your book, so thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity. But how is your day going today?
Hi, my day is actually going fantastic right now. Thank you so much for reading The Enchanted Life of Valentina Mejía and for including me on your podcast.
I am so glad to hear that you are having a wonderful day. I am too. And of course, it has been so fun to read your book and just be in contact with you this whole time. It was so fun to collaborate with you. So thank you for letting me be able to create an episode for your amazing book. But now let's go ahead and get into this interview. So first, how did you know you wanted to be an author? Was there a pivotal moment when you just knew, or was your passion for reading and writing kind of developed over time?
I think I've always been a storyteller since I was a child. I was the resident storyteller for my cousins, where I would make up stories of princesses and clouds, or with my friends when we did a lot of imaginative play with my dolls. I was just always making up stories. And as I got older and I went to college, I thought I was kind of going in the direction of poetry. I did a lot of courses on poetry, and that was my first love. But it was when I became a mom that I started reading books to my son, and he would get so excited and he would say, "What happens next?" Or, "Can you read another one?" And I loved that magic. It reminded me a lot of when I was a kid. As an only child, even with a large family, books for me were that safety and that solace. And I realized then that I wanted to be able to give kids that gift.
Yes, I completely agree with you. I remember when I was younger, I mean, I still am young. I'm pretty young. I'm barely in high school. But I remember when I was younger, my mom would walk into my room at night, every single night, with the book hidden behind her back. And it would be the most exciting thing, like for the whole day, just to see what book she would pull out and that she was going to read to me for the night. That was just such a magical moment, like you said. Storytelling and just reading all together is such a magical world that I will always appreciate even when I'm older. And I just love that you're a mother and that you saw that passion that your son had for it, and then you turned it into something that you could do for other kids around the world. So I think that's such a wonderful thing. And yeah, I completely agree with you also on the fact that I feel like everyone, or at least for me and you, when you're younger, you're just always thinking of stories. I guess if that's just creative people, or I don't really know exactly what, but I know for me and all my sisters, we are always thinking of story ideas left and right. We could just look at a picture or see a cute illustration of a certain animal, and right away you just have this story idea of their whole backstory and what their character is about. And also playing with toys when you're a little kid, you just create this whole story and this whole world for them. So I think in a way we are all storytellers, but I love that you got that inspiration from when you were a very little kid and you now turn it into something that you do that people all around the world, like myself, enjoy. So I love that so much. And now for the next question, are there any authors you looked up to or wanted to be like either when you were younger or now in your current age?
Oh, yes, absolutely. There are several authors that I look up to, not all in children's literature, but Elizabeth Acevedo is a young adult verse novelist and a poet, and I absolutely love her work. Outside of Kidlit, Isabel Allende and Toni Morrison are two of my literary heroes that I really look up to and would love to even be a portion of who they are.
That's so cool to hear that even you, in my opinion, a wonderful author, have people that even you look up to. I mean, I've never heard of those people that you've mentioned. I'm actually going to probably go do some research on that after we're done doing this interview. But I honestly think that you are such a wonderful author and writer. Like I said in the episode, you just really have a wonderful gift of transporting the reader into that world. All of your characters and places that they would visit were all so well thought out, and I just really enjoyed reading your book. So you are such a wonderful writer. Honestly, you are an author that I look up to now because I like writing in my free time, and you are someone that now I strive to be like. So thank you so much for creating your book. Now the next question I have for you is that I know your book, The Enchanted Life of Valentina Mejía, was based on your own cultural heritage, but are any of your characters inspired by your own family or friends, or really anyone you have a relationship with in your life?
I have a habit of naming my characters after family. So a lot of the characters in The Enchanted Life of Valentina Mejía were absolutely inspired by my own family in terms of naming. So Valentina and Julian share the same first name as my cousin's kids, different last name. I have the talking capybara, who is Doña Ruth, and she's named after my tia Ruth. And like that, many of the characters are named after people that I know. But also a lot of the characters or the character traits are also inspired by people in my family. For example, Julian's character is very much drawn from my son when he was that age. So my son was very act first, think later, very active and curious about the world around him. And that is very much how Julian is. Valentina is inspired by my characteristics. She loves art. I love art. She's very cautious and sometimes anxious, especially when she has to make big decisions. And I kind of tend to be that same way. But all of the characters are in some way, shape, or form inspired by the people that I know.
Yeah, I think when writing a story or coming up with characters, there's really two ways that you can go. You can either go the route where you let the characters sort of write themselves and develop over time while writing the story, or you can look around at your family and loved ones and think, you know what, I love that about you. I'm going to put that into my story somehow. So I love that you did that. I think it kind of is like a little tribute to them, which I think is something so special. I have written little stories in my free time or some for school assignments, and I always try to throw in at least one family member or just a characteristic of someone to where obviously the person reading it might not know that, but I personally, as the writer, know that it's special to me only. So I love that about writing and creating characters. But yeah, I loved all of your characters, and I love that they're all based on people that you know, and especially Valentina. I think a lot of people can relate to her character, because I think a lot of people are like that in life, to where making big decisions, it's a big scary thing, because it's something that can change your life, even if it's small. Just it's something that will definitely affect the rest of your life. So I think we can all somehow relate to any of the characters. So I loved that, how you made all of the characters relatable in some way. So I really like that a lot. And now the next question I have for you: where did you get the inspiration for the enchanted life of Valentina Mejía? I mean, I really love all of the fantastical characters, the names of them, the settings, their characteristics, their traits. I loved everything about this book, and I'm just really wondering where you got all of those incredible ideas from, because I'm sure a lot of other readers are also wondering the same thing, because you just really created a world, and I just want to know where you got all of your wonderful inspiration from.
The Enchanted Life of Valentina Mejía actually got its start in a lot of the childhood stories that I remembered. I used to visit Colombia often in the summers, and in those visits, we would always go to the farm, La Finca. I was very fortunate that I had several uncles who had farms, and so I got my picking and choosing. But one in particular, my tío Guillermo, was a storyteller, and at his farm, he would tell us that in the copse of bamboo, there lived duendes, and duendes are trickster elves, so be careful. Don't leave your shoes out, because they will come out and get them. He would also tell us that in the cottage at the other side of the property that there lived a witch, and it was actually called La Casita de la Bruja, or the Little Witch's House, and we never saw the witch, so we always questioned it, but he said absolutely she lives there, she just doesn't like humans very much. So I had those stories. And then he would tell us that in the center of the property there was a pond, and he would tell us that in that pond lived a dragon, and he would call it Albatros. At least that's what my memory tells me. And Albatros became the dragon of the river in The Enchanted Life of Valentina Mejía. Same, the witch and the duendes, all those became characters in the story. But also other characters like El Silbón, the whistler, La Patasola. In fact, my cousin swears to this day that she saw a real Patasola, which is a one-legged vampire woman. And the description that my cousin gave me is actually the description that I use in The Enchanted Life of Valentina Mejía. And so all of the stories that I heard as a child became the inspiration for the beings of the world, as well as for the plot, because in learning more about the characters and these stories, I got inspiration for possible conflict and plot.
Yeah, I mean, that's so wonderful that you got all of your inspiration from family. I mean, the whole time you were saying your response to that question, I was just smiling. Like, hearing your responses, I was just so happy, because you were talking about how you had this inspiration from when you were a kid and your uncle would tell you these stories. Just hearing all of that made me, like, so happy for some reason, because I know since I read your story that all of those characters, like, as soon as you said the character name, I'm like, that's so cool that she got that from a story or from her cousin. I think that was so wonderful, and it's even more special to you and your family, knowing that that was kind of something that's been in your life since you were a little girl. So that's such a wonderful thing. Honestly, I love that so much. Like, I just love that it's all from your family and from different parts of your life as you grew up and you heard stories from different family members. So I love that so much. Oh my gosh, I feel so happy right now for some reason. But that is so wonderful. And now the last question I have here is, what is one thing you would tell your younger self? It can be about your writing journey or just something you have learned in your life, but what is one thing that you would tell your younger self? And also, is there anything that your readers, including myself, can look forward to? Are there any projects in the works or anything like that that we can be excited for?
Oh, that's a good question, and one that I've actually been thinking about a lot. I think if I could tell my younger self one thing, it would be not to be afraid. Don't be afraid to dream. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to take risks, because it is worth it in the end. And what can readers look forward to? Well, I have actually 2 books coming out next year that I'm really excited about. One is a picture book called Lupita's Hurricane Palomitas, about a young girl who channels her worry for an impending hurricane through the care of a pair of baby pigeons that were abandoned as the hurricane comes in. The other book that I'm really excited about is Grow Up Luchi Zapata, and it is another middle grade novel about a girl who is starting middle school, but whose middle school dreams go up in a poof of glitter when her BFF decides to ditch her for the cool kids, and Luchi is left trying to figure out who she is and where she belongs.
Honestly, I think that is the best thing that you could tell your younger self. I think as a kid, you are not scared to do anything because you obviously don't know as much as an adult about the world. So I think kids are always very, happy-go-lucky, which is a wonderful thing. And I think as you start to grow older, you start realizing all the things about the world, and then you start getting more scared, and then you start not doing things. So I think if people could take one thing from their childhood, it would be to always be brave and to just try something new. Even if it fails or backfires on you, or if anything bad happens, just at least you tried, because maybe it won't fail on you. Maybe it will be a complete success, but you will never know unless you try. So since I'm still younger, I'm definitely going to take that and just try new things. Honestly, that's how I'm here right now, interviewing you for my podcast that I didn't even think anyone would listen to. I didn't think I would get any books to even review on my podcast. So just like you said, always be sure to try your dreams and make your dreams a reality if you can. So I think that is wonderful advice that not only you would give your younger self, but also that everyone, no matter what age, can apply to their life. So that was really inspirational. I think everyone that listens to this, you should definitely take that from this episode and go be fearless and live like your childhood self of not being scared of the world. Obviously be cautious and be careful, but don't be to where you're stuck and you feel like you can't do anything because you're too scared. So make your dreams a reality, you guys. You can do it. I believe in you. And yeah, what are you waiting for? Go make your dreams a reality. And also, Alexandra, I just want to say that your book sounds so exciting. The picture book sounds so cute. I can't wait for that to come out. And your middle grade book also sounds like a really relatable topic for a lot of middle grade kids. So I'm also really looking forward to when that book comes out. But yeah, I'm so glad you have those two projects in the works. I know many people are also going to be very excited for it, along with myself. So I am so excited for you as well. But thank you so much for doing this interview here with me today. It was so fun to hear from you. And like I said, every time you responded to one of my questions, I was just smiling and so happy. So thank you so much for being such a kind person and for sharing your book with the world. It was so wonderful. I really enjoyed it, like I've said so many times throughout this episode, but I just can't stop saying it because I thoroughly enjoyed your book. It was so great. But yes, thank you so much. I had so much fun, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you again so much for including me in your podcast, for these amazing questions, and for reading The Enchanted Life of Valentina Mejía. I hope you have an awesome day as well.
Okay, you guys, so that was the interview that I had the wonderful opportunity of doing with Alexandra Alessandri. Thank you so much, Alexandra, for doing that with me. It was so much fun, and I just really enjoyed myself. And like I said in the interview, every single time you said your response, I was just smiling, and I was so happy because I love your book so much. So to hear all of your inspiration and all of the stuff that we talked about, it was such a wonderful pleasure. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do that with me. I really appreciate it. It was so fun to collaborate with you, so thank you for this whole process. It was amazing. And yeah, you guys, with that, I guess this brings this week's episode to a close, which is actually a little bit sad because I loved this episode so much. This book was so wonderful. I feel like I could talk about it all day, but basically, I loved it so much. Be sure to go check it out. I have the link in this episode description to go purchase it, so if you would like to, go ahead and go click that link. And be sure you're following me over on Instagram at Strawberry Milkshake Podcast because I will be posting special things with the author of this book, Alexandra Alessandri. So be sure to go follow me over on Instagram, and be sure to go follow Alexandra Alessandri also on Instagram. And yeah, guys, that brings this week's episode to a close. It was so much fun for me. I love this book so much, and I really recommend checking it out. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, keep your head in the clouds and your heart in a book, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye, friends!